that my husband was interested and good at managing ours. I was free. For the first time since that first job at 16 years old, I didn't have to be responsible for managing my money. But what I failed to realize was what felt like freedom was really dependency. My mistake is that I didn't stay involved or understand what was going on with our money. You may have experienced this yourself, or you may have heard stories of celebrities or professional athletes that have relied on family, friends, and others to manage their money, and they are left broke, bankrupt, and betrayed because they made the choice to hand over their financial power. The Purple Purse has coined financial abuse the invisible weapon, because physical abuse leaves bruises and scars, but financial abuse doesn't. Financial abuse and financial dependency leave emotional scars that you can't see.
That is Estelle Gibson, a business, financial, and ICF certified coach. It's 10 after 9 o'clock. A very good morning to all of you that have tuned into the show. My name is Cathy Mohlahlana, and I'll be with you until midday. Looking forward to the conversation. So what can you expect coming up today? Well, we're going to start off with the National Roundtable. I'm getting ready to take your calls, and I know it is going to be fiery. Why do I think it's going to be fiery? Well, why wouldn't it be fiery? Especially given all of the developments that have been unfolding in the last 24 hours. You would have seen then the conclusion of the evidence of Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya, the Deputy National Police Commissioner, in Parliament yesterday, and of course getting quite a grilling from members of Parliament. I wonder what you make of the entire evidence that it has given. You know, I keep thinking about just, I'm still of the view, you know, let's cancel and start from zero. Let's just cancel and start from zero, guys. Like, it's very, what did they say about a new broom? A new broom sweeps clean, right? I think we need a new broom that will sweep clean. I'm convinced. I'm convinced that it'll be very difficult for this country to move forward and for policing to improve with the current crop. And I use that intentionally, the current crop, because it's, in my view, there are no heroes. There are absolutely no heroes. And it's just, you have to worry about the state of policing when the SAPS is so highly factionalized. Because it is. The divisions run so deep that even if you're saying you're bringing in new players, the problem is, you know, let's say you find a replacement for Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya. That person is still going to fall into what is already a factionalized SAPS. How far are they going to be able to get in doing what they have to do? Is it practical? I don't know, but incredibly worried about the state of affairs. And then, of course, there was also the ad hoc committee in Parliament has also taken a recession for today. They are going to be reconvening tomorrow morning. It's going to be another big morning. This is where the suspended police minister, Senzo Mchunu, is going to be giving his evidence before the committee. But MPs will only get to field questions to the minister on Tuesday next week. So he's going to have the time then to give his evidence sort of for the 3 days. At the Madlanga Commission, there of course was high drama yesterday when an urgent adjournment had to be taken. And this is due to an issue with Mr. X and a technical feed. And unfortunately, there were also concerns raised about the safety of that witness who was answering questions. Yes, his face was not seen, but what was being heard was his voice. That also raised safety issues. So now the commission is going to continue its work on Thursday morning while it tries to resolve how exactly this witness is going to continue giving evidence, at least in a way that is not disruptive and in a way that doesn't threaten their safety. So for this morning, it's a pause, which allows us then to have the open line. It's your national roundtable. We also had the president at the NCOP yesterday. You know, I want to give the president the benefit of the doubt, right? I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But then when I listen to the full clip of what he was saying to Parliament and how elaborate the story was, at some point, I thought, hey, I don't know. Hey, I'm not sure. What Vincent Magwenya said about the relation with the president and not having met. Look, I thought it's probable, right? It's probable. It's certainly not impossible, given how long ago he had been married to his ex-wife. 47 years. It's a really, really long time. And this wasn't his direct niece. This is sort of an in-law. And we all know marriages end, people cut ties, they move on with their lives. So I thought, look, it's probable. But there was just something in the way that the story was told that I'm like, why does this sound like they were very smart people that worked together in a room and wrote it down and say, and then this is how the story is going to be told. And maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe I'm being unfair on the president because maybe, what he's saying is the absolute truth. But there was just something about it that I was like, I am not sure after all. So it's your national roundtable. Let's have the conversation. 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial. 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104107. But let me tell you what, last night was an incredible night for us. Bafana have made history by qualifying for the 2026 FIFA World Cup to be held in Canada, Mexico, and the USA. It's the first time that we're making an appearance at the football showpiece in 24 years. The last time we qualified was in 2002, and this was the FIFA World Cup in South Korea. And South Africa, of course, automatically qualified for the 2010 FIFA World Cup because we were hosting. They said you cannot be a part of it because it's in your country. So that's why this victory is sweeter. No, Selma, my technician, is shocked that we didn't qualify. She didn't know. But who can forget the Chabalala goal, right? No one will ever forget the Chabalala goal. But yeah, unfortunately, we hadn't qualified. It was an automatic qualification. So we narrowly missed the 2022 edition of the World Cup in Qatar. And you remember that was a lot of heartbreak for the country. But this time, look, we're back on the up. We're on the come up again. And what a beautiful moment it is for our country. Let's listen to the Bafana captain, Ronwen Williams, who spoke just moments after their qualification.
And I do have the captain of Bafana, Ronwen Williams. Ronwen, during the week, you spoke about being around as we were trying to qualify for Qatar and the heartbreak that it came with that. But how do you feel now to have sealed and booked that ticket for South Africa?
Amazing. I'm lost for words. I don't know what to say. I don't think we as players realize what we just done here. This is history. I'm so proud to be leading this team. What we done here is amazing. And I think as time goes by, it will probably sink in. But I'm so proud and happy for the team, for the players, for the coach and the technical team especially. It's been an amazing journey. A lot of good moments, bad moments, moments that we had to stick together as a team. And that's what I asked for. the last few days. I said, in good moments, it's easy to be a team. But in bad moments and when you're back against the wall, that's when we have to dig deep and draw strength from one another. And that's exactly what we've done the last few days. So kudos to the players and the team.
Chibobo. Peace.
South Africa, we're on the come up. We're on the come up. We are on the come up, ladies and gentlemen. So when we come, oh, by the way, Tulas, I know you are still buffering looking for the name, ne? We found it before you knew you had to look for it. I love you, friend. Okay, we'll take a break. We're back with more after this.
Pneumococcal disease can strike at any time, especially if you live with a chronic condition or have weakened immunity. If you're 19 and older with the chronic disease, vaccination can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia. The risk increases for people 65 and older, and vaccination is advised to help prevent serious illness. Ask your healthcare professional about pneumococcal vaccination. Don't wait. Vaccinate. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This summer, the continent unites for the biggest football showdown in Africa. The Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 is coming to your screens, live and available on SABC TV channels, SABC Sport, SABC Plus, and across your favorite SABC radio stations. Catch all 52 thrilling matches, stand behind Bafana Bafana, and experience every goal, every cheer, and every victory from 21 December 2025 to 18 January 2026. SABC Sport brings you all the AFCON 2025 action, live and free, because it's game on everywhere.
For the love of the game.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
You're listening to The Talking Point. By the way, we're going to take your calls on 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104107. If you're wondering why I'm sounding so unserious this morning, blame Zalma, my TD, because this is why we never work together. She's a troublemaker, this one. And you heard the TKZ Shibobo. Tulas TKZ Shibobo is the name of the song, not Palafala or Palapala. No. TKZ Shibobo. Michael Abramson. Michael Abrams, good morning.
Good morning to you, Cathy. How are you?
I'm good. Jeez, what a moment for South Africa. What a moment for Bafana. You were commenting on the game last night. Just speak to us a little bit about the significance.
It's massive. I mean, one of the greatest moments in South African sporting history, certainly as far as soccer is concerned. I mentioned in commentary that I commentated on the opening game of the World Cup in 2010 in our own country. Of course, that was hugely memorable. And my commentary on Shabalala's opening goal was probably the most legendary commentary in my 35-year career to date. But last night was huge. And the fact that Nigeria scored so early helped our cause. I think word got out to the players. They relaxed. They looked very, very calm. And then that early goal from Talente Mbata was huge, of course, because it meant that South Africa now had the belief and they had a bit of a buffer in both games. So they could just go on and play their game. They didn't really have to worry about a threat that Rwanda posed. And in truth, Rwanda didn't really pose anything until that one shot very late in the game that almost went in, hit the inside of the post and bounced out. But by then, South Africa had already pretty much secured their qualification. So it's huge and it's very exciting for the South African public, for the country as a whole. And we look forward to seeing which group we're going to be drawn in, who we'll get in that World Cup draw, and how far we might be able to go at the World Cup.
Yeah, look, and I think, Michael, I don't know that many South Africans would necessarily be expecting us to bring back the FIFA World Cup trophy home. But still, this moment being significant is also the possibility and the opportunity it offers us, because we've been dominating and doing well in other sporting codes. And Bafana for the longest time just seemed to be in a rut, and this in many ways signals the turnaround, signals that they too can be those ambassadors that South Africans are proud of.
Yeah, absolutely, Cathy. Look, if South Africa come back with a World Cup, I think the country needs a permanent holiday. I don't think that's realistic at the moment. But if I look at how the team have evolved, as you say, over the past few years, when Hugo Bruce took over, right at the beginning of his tenure, I remember a game that we played against Liberia at Orlando Stadium that I was commentating probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And we took a 2-0 lead, and then we threw away 2 late goals and drew 2-2 with Liberia. And Hugo Bruce wouldn't even face the media afterwards. He sent out his assistant to go and face the comments because he knew the abuse he was going to get. And just the way that the team have evolved, the way that they've handled things, they've become a much better team. I thought their game management last night was outstanding. Once they were 2-0 up, they didn't allow Rwanda to get into the game. They just knocked the ball around, waited for the opportunities, and then attacked and got that third goal. So they're a much, much better team. They're missing a lot of very key players, let's not forget. And Mbokazi was suspended last night. Lyle Foster was injured, so he couldn't play. And the coaches had to dig deep to try and fill the squad with various other players who came in and did the job. I thought that some of the players whom he brought in last night did a really excellent job, especially this TX Galaxy defender who came in to replace Mbokazi. He did amazingly well. I thought he was outstanding on the night. He was very, very calm, didn't let anything get to him. And then Ronwen Williams hardly had a save to make. So the side have done very well. How far they will get at the World Cup, I think if they can get to the knockouts, even to get out of their group and advance, that will be a significant achievement because that's something South Africa have not done yet. But obviously it depends on who we get. A lot of water could still fly under the bridge. We don't know which players will be selected for that World Cup squad. It's just really exciting to know that we will be there among the nations competing.
Wonderful. Michael, thank you so much just for that update. And yeah, we will take all the wins we can get, and they certainly are worth celebrating. Tabiso in Polokwane, let me start off with you. You want to touch on Bafana's win? Hello, Tabiso?
Very terrible. Hello?
Yes, there we go.
Hello,
You're live on air now.
Yeah, no. I was saying that you made it look very terrible, Kiki. Now, when you can't talk about 24 years. You make it look very, very, very terrible that it's been long. But of course, it's true. that we only qualified in 2002 without even given a favor about 2010. Had we have not hosted the 2010, we would have not hosted we would not have participated in the World Cup. And I think we need to congratulate this young generation. I mean, they made this country proud by qualifying. You would remember the thrill that happened when Philima Singa scored that goal that took us to the 1998 World Cup. You know, everyone was excited. Every person who knew how to compose a song was able to do that. And this is an excitement moment for Bafana Bafana. We hope that they'll be able to do well in in both the African Cup of Nations in December and subsequently the World Cup. We really, our country has been coming through. I mean, from all other sporting codes, only the ones that were remaining here and there was Bafana Bafana. But we must also applaud Hugo Bruce. He might have his own, challenges and mistakes that he'll do here and here. You know what makes it very sweet, this victory, because they docked us 3 points because of fielding a player that was not eligible to play on that particular day. So it makes it very, very sweet that amid all the challenges that those boys faced, but they were able to make sure that at least from anyone, rather by them winning successfully. So.
Yeah, Tabiso, couldn't agree more with you. Thanks for that call. And I guess it's also a reminder of how we can be excellent as a nation. And I truly do believe that South Africa is one of those countries. We've been called to excellence, guys, to be excellent at everything that we do. And sometimes all of the bad and the rot that is happening, the corruption, it presents a different image, right, of who we are. But we know that inherently we are so much better than that as a people. And perhaps it's about time that we do what we're doing. Let's get the bad guys out so that excellence can rise up again across this nation. And, we will just be so much better for it. We're going to take the latest news headlines. I see lots of calls lined up, so we're going to go straight to the phone lines when we continue.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, tributes are pouring in for Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who has died at the age of 80. His office has confirmed his death. The DA in Gauteng is calling for the immediate dismissal of the head of Gauteng Health and Wellness Department, Lesiba Malotana. The party has rejected his suspension with full pay, saying it's not good enough. And the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union POPCRU has raised concern over unexplained pension fund reductions that its members have reported. POPCRU says its members have reported a drop in their balances on their government employees' pension fund statements for the period from July to September. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Congratulations, Bafana Bafana! Congratulations are in order. Well done to Hugo Bruce and the team, all the players. Credit to them. Well done. Congratulations are in order.
Cathy, congratulations to Bafana Bafana. They did it the hard way, but I still believe Danny Jordan and his administration should be fired. How can you still have this situation that almost cost us going to the World Cup? Yes, we can celebrate that they made it, but what if they lost? I mean, really? Yes. Eddie from Polokwane.
Good morning, says Cathy. Congratulations to our boys, Bafana Bafana. You brought that trust back to the nation. At least there's something that we can celebrate. We are sick and tired. We are tired of those top officials who are lying to us behind oaths, who are lying to us deliberately. They are lying deliberately. At least now we can laugh at last. Talk about Bafana Bafana. Thank you, Seskate. This is Anonymous.
Siskati, hi, are you well? This is JCK Kaunda from Sena. Siskati, I don't buy into explanation of the president's spin doctor, Mr. Magwenya Vincent. Hi, man. The president knows very well Maumera. Maumera can't get such a large or big tender without connection. There was a connection. That's why he got billions and billions of tenders because of connections. No, it can't be. You cannot see that hug. That hug tells you something about the people who know each other. There's a relationship hug. Let me rest my case for now. JCK, Kaunda from Sina.
To the southwest and east, South Africa. Sarah, out one foot, KC, other, one foot, Jana, other, one foot, T, who is like Canada. Where, Cathy? The one I understand. Yanchela, they go from Nanding King. You go from Nanding King, Spaggy, Spaggy.
May South Africa continue to rise and rise, guys. May we rise and rise. And of course, the team has touched down at OR Tambo International Airport, and our SABC team on Channel 404 is, of course, there. And you can catch some of the interviews with the members of the team. And I see now that Danny Odan is also being interviewed in as far as his own reflections on the performance of the team. Okay, let me go to Pugs in Cape Town. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy.
Yes, sir.
Cathy, I just want to speak about the coalition.
Oh, Pugs, I'm going to ask you to try and relocate. The room that you're in, that echo is just too loud, and unfortunately we're not hearing you clearly. While you do that, let me go to Mbona in Mafikeng. Mbona, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Well done, Bafana. At least we got something to say.
Halala.
Yeah. When it comes to the commissions, you see this man, Paul Sullivan.
Yes.
This person is a problem. Because why? He is the person who linked the intelligence information to FBI and CIA.
Mm.
And the same applied to General Svia. Also leaking in intelligence information to the criminals and nothing happening to them. So this is the biggest problem that we have.
And Mbona, gathering what you've heard from the evidence of General Sibia, has it left you with a sense that he was in fact leaking evidence, as you're saying, to criminal forces or to people? Let's say somebody like a Brown Mokhotsi, because there are big questions over how a Brown Mokhotsi would have had access to some of the information and intel that he had. And is it your sense now, after hearing his own version of events, that this in fact is something that was probable and was likely happening?
No, he admitted it. He is denying, not knowing that he's admitting what he's accused of. Because there's a problem also into the Gauteng High Court regarding to Paul Sullivan. Why there's a court order which prohibits this man to be arrested within 48 hours. There is order in a court, and whose judge was granting that order?
Mm.
Yeah. So the problem is too big. So this person, that's why former President Zuma told us to saying this man is working for FBI and CIA. Now I can agree with that.
Okay, and you're talking here in relation to Paul O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right, yeah. All right, Mbona, let's leave it there. Yeah, there was, of course, this very... I don't know what to call it, but this interview that Paul O'Sullivan did that's been posted online, and he talks about how he funded, is it the Helen Suzman Foundation, to bring court action in a particular matter. And you just think about, but what drives that interest? What drives that interest? because it's very important, and we're talking big money here. So where does that money actually come from? What will one uncover if we follow the trail of what is happening? What will one uncover if we follow the trail? And this is what it's leading us to, right? It's leading us to question, to question every single thing that is in front of us. Butana, you in Rosebank, good morning.
Good morning, my sister, and well done to Bafana Bafana, and congratulations to them. The hard work start now.
But Butana,
they're going to make us
Butana, no, wait, Butana, we're celebrating, man. Why do you still sound angry? Even your congratulations is an angry congratulations. Butana.
No. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, let's start again, Butana. Let's try that one more time, and this time we want to hear the joy in your voice. Okay, go for it.
Well done, Bafana Bafana. Congratulations. We love you. You did us proud. Does it sound better now?
Butana, what do you want to talk about? Okay, Butana.
I want to talk about...
Butana, wait. Let me take a break. I'm going to come back with you.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Channel your inner feel good on Expresso this October, from big global moments like the G20 summit to how it all plays out right here at home.
We are keeping it real this Mental Health Awareness Month with conversations that lift and inspire. And of course, all the good stuff that you love, delicious food, fashion trends, and everything in between.
Wake up with the Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Fellow taxpayers, make tax matters a #1 priority by submitting your personal income tax return by the 20th of October 2025 deadline. Once your tax return is submitted, you'll receive a notice of assessment stipulating if there's any tax-assessed debt due to SARS or not. Should you owe, it's crucial to settle tax obligations on time to avoid any penalties or interest charges. SARS, at your service.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, you're listening to the National Roundtable. We're still taking your calls on 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, send those WhatsApp voice notes and text messages to 0614 104 107. Butana is still on the line. Yes, Butana, you wanted to talk about?
I want to talk about Comrade General Shadrack Sibiya. By the way, he denied that he's a comrade, but he has all the characteristics of comrade. And the lions have short legs. He's just as disgraceful to victims of crime. For heaven's sake, he's a crime detector at the top level of cops. Yet he can't bring confidence to us. No wonder we are ravaged by crime. No wonder.
Butana, what did you think was the greatest weakness of his evidence?
He's not truthful. They have to dig out the truth from him. He's not truthful. He's not honest to us. Characteristics of comrades. He is playing a victim mentality. He's a victim. They deny me their position. I want that position. I want to be a commissioner now, national commissioner. I want to be the head of Hawks. Really? You deserve that? Causing with people that are accused that because you enjoy drinks and coffees with them. While we are savaged by crime, Top Cop, it's such disappointing. It's such disappointing. Tembisa has been collapsed. It's not only Tembisa, has been collapsed. People have lost their lives. They have lost their lives. And here what the president is saying to us. He's telling us Jews' story. Really now. We've got nothing to do with the Jews' story that who has pregnant that womb. All what is important to us is that CR-17 that were buried. CR-17, Pala. That's what concerns us. Why are these people taking our country? But let me congratulate as well the parliamentarians. They tried to dig the truth from that chap. They tried. I really see some of them, they are very committed people. But we can't have police like that, Cathy. We can't. We cannot afford.
Butana, what you have said about the role of leaders and their ability to inspire confidence, I think is really crucial in evaluating also what comes out of these proceedings. When you listen to Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, yes, there are a lot of things that one can question, but he comes across as confident. He comes across as knowing his story. He comes across as a solid police officer. And that is not to be understated. And so the ability to inspire confidence, I think, is really key, because these are the people that South Africa should be relying on to say, I know I can sleep confidently or sleep restfully, not the forever restful, but I can sleep to wake up in the morning and know that I am safe, and know that we are in safe hands. And I don't know that is what General Sibiya was able to accomplish during his time in Parliament.
He was horrible. Horrible. Mkhwanazi demonstrated he takes serious his job. He might done some mistakes, but he takes his job serious. Listen what the Comrade General was saying when he was asked questions. Where are the doctors? He said they were taken and brought by them. He tripped. Of course, he tripped on his word because he wants to cover up.
Okay,
taken and brought by them, taken to where they were supposed to be taken.
Butana,
we can't have this type of people there. We cannot afford. We have them, but we cannot afford.
I hear you loud and clear, Butana. I hear you loud and clear. All right, let's give others a chance. Tsepo, you're in Zeerust. Good morning. Good morning, Tsepo.
Cathy, how are you?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well.
Hey, I'm in a jovial mood too.
Yeah, look, we've got to have a bit of fun. It's been stressful, Tsepo. We've been going through it, so we'll take the little joy we can find, won't we?
Yes, man.
What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Atamelang, but this time I'm happy now.
Yes, Atamelang, the bus service out in Zeerust, in the Northwest. Yes. We did that story quite extensively. What's happening?
There's a new service provider now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a new service provider. He started to operate today. As I'm speaking with you, there are buses on the streets, on the roads actually. Now, I just want to say thank you for everything that SAFM has done to us by giving us a platform. I'm still in a jovial mood. I've got nothing much to talk or to tell.
And Tsepo, the buses are in good condition? They're stopping where they need to stop?
For now, I cannot tell much. I think after a couple of weeks, I will call you again just to give you an update about the new service provider, because even this morning, I couldn't be able to ride one of their buses, but they look as if they are much better than that of Atamelang.
Okay, Tsepo, we really appreciate the fact that you called in to tell us that things are up and running. And I think what we'll do is that we will give it, let's say, some time, maybe a month or so, and then we'll also go back to the officials, because we were very hard on them when you were experiencing these issues, and people, of course, were stranded. So it's only fair to go back to them too and give them an opportunity to speak about how they've managed to turn things around.
Yes, it's Casey.
Okay, all right, Tsepo. Thank you so much. Tsepo out in Xeris. And the story, I mean, we started the story in January, right? Look, it's November. It did take the whole year, though. I mean, it's October, sorry. Like, it has taken the whole year to come up with a solution. But I think, gratitude nonetheless. And Tsepo and many members of the community will be very happy this morning now that there are buses back on the road and they don't have to worry about spending more money than they ordinarily would have on transport. So, yeah, I think it's a really, really positive step. And like I said, in the same way that we were hard on the officials, we had them on air a number of times. You'd remember at some point, even the service providers were on air shouting at the municipality, and it was just, it was just high drama. So it's really great to see that there's some progress in that regard. All right, I'm still taking more of your calls on 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107.
The Seagulls are counting on the power of victory to find comfort in the top half.
Weeper across! 2-1 Albion! Unbelievable scenes at Stamford Bridge.
Meanwhile, the Magpies want to start collecting points to level up to a decent position.
Looking for Baltimore! And the big German gets another goal.
This is the Premier League. Experience Brighton and Hove Albion versus Newcastle United on Saturday, 18 October at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer, or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand, and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, let's continue the conversation. Let me go to Sky City. Alba, good morning.
Cathy, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Alba. I think it's the first time that we have you on the show.
Yeah, it's the first time.
Welcome to the show, Alba. What do you want to talk about this morning?
First and foremost, I would like to congratulate you for the participation.
Alba, try and move around for me. The where you are, it's a bit noisy in the background.
I was saying I would like to congratulate Bafana Bafana. I would like to first congratulate Bafana Bafana.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it's a good thing. But in the process of congratulating them, we shouldn't lose focus, whereby the people who dropped the ball should be fired. Johnny Jordan and the creative need to account for what they did. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the peace deal in Gaza. President Trump, I don't think is the best candidate to be negotiating the peace deal in Gaza. Reason being that, according to me, it's like he finds me fighting with somebody. He first gives them that person a knife to stab me. After having stabbed me, now he comes in. He wants to be in the middle and negotiate a peace deal. It doesn't work like that. They've already taken the side.
Yeah, and I was looking at some of those visuals and of course following the story on international media, and one just wonders, how long is this going to hold for? Because there's also the reality that President Trump was chasing the Nobel Peace Prize, right? And
Yes.
and he didn't get it. And of course, some of these things would have been already in play at the point that the announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize winner was made. So what happens now that he's missed out on what is a coveted prize for him? How invested is he going to be in this process?
Because even when you look at the people that he has called, the way they are meeting, it's people who are just cheerleaders. Because if this was a genuine thing, they would have called South Africa to be part of it, because South Africa took a step, which was an unpopular one, to take Israel to the ICJ. So it shows that South Africa is taking a neutral stand. They only want peace. So if you want a peace that is going to be a lasting peace, you invite people like South Africa who have never taken a side, who have been in the middle, to come and join in the peace negotiation. But he calls only his cheerleaders, those who are going to sing his praise and say, "You're great, great." He even went to the Israel parliament where he was praised. That's what he wanted. So it's about his ego. It's not a peace deal.
Yeah, look, Alba, those are very interesting reflections from you. And I think the issues that you're raising would also be issues that have been on a lot of people's minds. Watching this process unfold, there is something about it that just leaves on with a sense of, I wonder how long this is going to stay in place for. And as Alba is saying, it might be because it has been quite a limited process. It hasn't been an all-inclusive process in the way that one perhaps would also expect, given how long this conflict has been going on for, and how many countries, right, have been involved in trying to broker peace from different parts of the world. And bringing them in also, it means that there's an element of accountability. There's a mechanism of accountability that, yes, you will hear from people that you like, but you will also hear from people that you don't like, and open yourself to being held accountable by them too,
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Alba, thanks for those contributions. Let's go to Voice in Parktown. Good morning.
Ewe, njani?
Ngiyaphila sisivuyiswa.
Yeah, inkosi.
You're not. I was going to say you and Butana. Hey, Kanti, don't you put honey or sugar in your rooibos, huh?
Why?
We're talking about good news, but you sound more depressed than ever. You sound like it's the worst
I'm happy
news.
for Bafana. I love sports of any kind. I've been a sports person since I was young. I played netball in England. I played tennis. I love sports. I love Bafana, and I'm happy for them.
All right, sis boy. So ujiwa king.
Corruption. That corruption is everywhere. Even like today, I've been reading something. Paul O'Sullivan. Kahle uphazamisile bengifuna ukuthetha kahle lento yami. This man called Paul O'Sullivan is now telling us that some of us have been knowing for quite a long time. The two Glennis Breiterbach as fees for her legal fees were paid by a man called Nathan, a billionaire from the US, Nathan Cash. And he is funding the DA. If we have billionaires in New York, Los Angeles, London, you name it, who are funding an opposition like the DA, who are still not accounted for our families that they killed, their fathers and mothers killed and themselves supported it. You have these billionaires that are funding DA. You see where the road comes from. And unfortunately, there are so many people who have taken blood money. And I think Paul also is spilling the beans now, whether he thinks the law will be lenient for him. And I want to talk about media, because this has not been told to us. Now that Paul also putting it all over media. And they say there's a Zimbabwean advocate, Simba, for the ZEP. It's been found that he doesn't have the qualification, and media doesn't talk about it. And the man has just, hibernated somewhere. We don't know. You don't call him for interviews or whatever. You're not telling us what happened with him. So these are the two, three things that whites are still thinking they are superior than us, and the media does so. They assist them. Why don't we hear about these things? Breitenbeck is a rotten person, very rotten woman, that the media doesn't want to talk. And
sorry, who is a rotten woman, Vuyiswa?
This Glenn Breitenbeck. That's the one who Paul Olsen spilling the things that this billionaire from the U.S. paid, had legal fees. You remember when she had legal issues? And those fees were paid through the de Klerk Foundation. How do we trust them? How do we trust that whatever they're fighting for, we know they're not fighting for the poor. They're fighting for themselves. But they are not even called in media to account for. Where's Simba? Where's Simba? Simba was here on media every single day promoting this whole also corruption business of illegal immigrants. So you guys are not calling him.
Vuyiswa, the one thing I will acknowledge is that when the media is wrong, we don't do a good job of acknowledging it. There have been examples of many other analysts, right, who were less than qualified to be speaking on the subjects that they had been approached for. And often what will happen is in a newsroom is that sometimes these guests are not vetted properly. And what do I mean by vetting? As in their credentials, their background are not looked at very properly. And this is one of the things that comes as a result of the juniorization of the newsroom as well. Because just having been alive long enough matters when it comes to assessing the credibility of an individual. Sometimes you might be qualified and, have everything that looks legit on paper, but how you are able to articulate the issues actually is just not within the context of where the country might be. And so there has been a great weakness on the media on that. And unfortunately, where let's say a commentator guest is found to not actually be appropriate, we don't come out and say, by the way, the reason we're not using this person is because we found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More often we want to hide it and we want to just move on. So we just don't call the person for commentary.
If we can be vetted, if we can go through vetting, I've been vetted, and it was a law up to everybody, that I know, that I worked with. We were vetted. And why can't we vet Bosimba,
But I'm acknowledging Vuyiswa. I'm telling you how the problem happens, and I'm telling you what the outcome is. Sometimes, when there have been individuals that should not have been on air, that should not have been speaking on the issue.
Because Tina, we want Inyan. There's nothing else that we want right now.
Okay.
We want Inyan.
All right.
Even if it's wrong, because even if we're supporting it,
yes,
please tell us.
I hear you loud and clear, and it's something that I think we as the media can also reflect on. It's time for your latest news update.
In our top stories, former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga dies, and Pop Crew demands answers regarding members' pension balances reduction. Good morning. Tributes are pouring in for Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who has died at the age of 80. His office has confirmed his death. Odinga died after suffering a cardiac arrest in India, where he had been undergoing treatment. Ditaba Tsotetsi reports.
As opposition leader in Kenya, Raila Odinga lost all 5 of his presidential campaigns, with 2 of the votes leading to violent protests. His work as a democracy activist over the years helped seal 2 of the country's most important reforms, multi-party democracy in 1991 and a new constitution in 2010. He led the protest after the disputed 2007 election that plunged the country into its most serious political violence since independence in 1963. More than 1,000 people were killed in those protests and hundreds of thousands displaced from their homes in the battles.
The DA in Gauteng is calling for the immediate dismissal of the head of Gauteng Health and Wellness Department, Lesiba Mohlahlana. The party has rejected his suspension with full pay, saying it's not good enough. The DA has accused Mohlahlana of long-standing underperformance and being linked to multiple scandals, including corruption at Tembisa Hospital, which the Special Investigating Unit was probing. DA spokesperson for Health in Gauteng is Madeleine Hicklin.
You're looking at a department that underspent money meant for healthcare services to the tune of 725 million rand in the last year alone. And let's not forget the most heinous of all crimes, the assassination of Babita Deokaran, who uncovered the 2 billion rand scandal that crippled Tembisa Hospital. All of this took place under the watchful eye, in inverted commas, of Lesiba Mohlahlana. How can one allow a man to be sitting at home on his couch with full pay when he was supposed to be overseeing a department that had these scandals?
The Police and Prison Civil Rights Union POPCRU has raised concern over unexplained pension fund reductions reported by its members. POPCRU says its members have reported a drop in their balances on their government employees' pension fund statements for the period from July to September. The pension fund attributed their reductions to actuarial projections, but the union has argued that these should not affect existing balances. POPCRU is demanding full disclosure from the board and the Government Pensions Administration Agency on who authorized the adjustments. Richard Mamabolo is the union's spokesperson.
These actuarial tools are meant for future planning, not for retrospective reductions of members' funds. And I think we've got a lot of questions that we definitely need to ask, as to who made these changes, how were these actuarial reviews were done, and of course, why labor representatives were not consulted. One of the things that as well is concerning is the fact that the GPF had made previous assurance to workers that their patients would not be negatively affected by internal adjustments, and of course, it is clearly a bit of trust.
Protesting taxi operators have blocked the R74 at Greytown in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. The protest comes after traffic police impounded several vehicles for allegedly operating outside their licence conditions. The Road Traffic Inspectorate Sindim Simang has urged motorists to avoid the affected route.
R74 Muden Road is completely closed due to the protest by taxi owners. They're complaining that Chanela came and impounded their vehicles, which were operating contrary to the conditions of the operating license.
And finally, 3 of the 4 bodies returned to Israel by Hamas yesterday have now been identified. But forensic scientists are reported to be investigating whether the 4th body may not be part of a former hostage. Hamas had previously handed over a body of a Palestinian by mistake in an exchange earlier this year. The BBC's Hugo Bachega has the details.
20 bodies remain in Gaza. All of them should return under the terms of this deal. And according to Israeli media reports, 4 more bodies are expected to be returned later today. Now, the Israeli authorities have threatened to delay the reopening of the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt, and also to restrict the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza as punishment. This morning, the Israeli public broadcaster is reporting that that will not happen.
Recapping the top story, tributes are pouring in for Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who has died at the age of 80. His office has confirmed his death. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumele Nkune, SABC Sport football analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, it gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Estou bem. What I like about SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumeleng Kuna's analysis of Footballer Leju on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's 10 after 10 o'clock. Welcome to the second hour of the Talking Point. Coming up in this hour, we are going to be taking a closer look at matters of corruption and in particular within the SAPS. And it's really just off the back of what we've been hearing come out of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and the Ad Hoc Committee in Parliament, because one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is what then is to be done now? What is to be done? Because we are seeing the picture in front of our eyes, and it is a terrible picture, to say the least. So what must be done? How do we move forward from this moment? And it's part of what we'll explore within the coming hour. Maybe just to read some of your WhatsApp messages before we go to the phone lines. One of our listeners, Andy, responding to Alba, saying that Alba is wrong in his reflections on South Africa being included in the peace negotiations led by U.S. President Donald Trump. He says we have taken a side, and that's why we can't be involved in peace nominations. Somebody else says, Cathy, that's Ilana. Ilana says, Cathy, nominations for the Peace Prize closed on the 31st of January. Trump's nomination has been forwarded to next year. Yes, thanks for that, Ilana. I also got a similar message speaking to that effect. So he might have missed out this year, but he'll be considered for next year, and there's a high likelihood that, he might get it, especially if the peace deal lasts, right? If the peace deal holds, there's a high likelihood that he might get it. All right, let's continue then with your voice notes and then get into our conversation for 10 o'clock.
Good morning, Cathy. This is Tulani here in Pietermaritzburg. Please tell Budana to calm down. Every time he airs his point, he must learn to calm down so that we can hear him properly, and we don't want him to collapse. Thank you very much.
Sis Cathy, I could not hold my laugh in terms of how good Budana was expressing himself. I think complimentary messages is not for him. He cannot even change his voice, because every day when he comes up, you will hear him have the same tone, the same voice, and everything is negative. So forcing him to give complimentary statements is not his thing, so Cathy. So please don't do that to him again next time. Anonymous, not on Cape.
Hi, Cathy. This is Moses Raboroko here in Harrismith, Free State. So I want to say to Bafana, well done, guys. You did it. You did it. Thank for the victory they made. They did qualify. Thank you very much. We are so very, very happy. Thank you. Bye.
Good morning, Cathy, and to the SAFM listeners. You know, Cathy, I think the top brass of the SAPS must go home because those guys are just useless. You know, there's a lot of infighting within the ranks, and this is confusing. This is worrying as a country. You know, we can't continue like this, Cathy. No wonder why the July 2021 unrest were not attended to. These were the issues behind. These guys must just go home. We can't continue like this as a country, Cathy. Melusi from Jimiston.
Hello, Cathy and SAFM listeners. I would like to congratulate Bafana. I'm very, very, very happy. And I would like to apologize to Monamulu Hugo Bros. He has done a good job. Most of us, we didn't believe in him. But now, I'm very, very happy. James Miller from Bloemfontein. Thanks, Cathy.
Gordon Ramsay is back, and your favorite kitchen disasters are still somehow in business. New season, same confused chefs, terrifying walk-ins, and enough grease to fry your Wi-Fi. Watch as Gordon tries to fix the unfixable with nothing but sheer rage, British sarcasm, and an iron stomach. Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Come for the food, stay for the emotional damage.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point. It was good to have a bit of fun in the first hour of the show, and thank you for all of the responses that have been coming through. So back to business, yeah, because good times can't last forever, right? Back to business. We're going to be looking at the revelations that have come out of the Malanga Commission of Inquiry and, of course, the SAPS Ad Hoc Committee in Parliament, and just reflect on what it has unveiled, what it has revealed about the state of the SAPS. To join us for this conversation, we have Mike Bolhuis. He's a former police officer and now a specialist investigator and crime expert. Mike, good morning to you.
Morning. How's it? And thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate. I just want to make one correction.
Yes.
I initially joined the police, but I was there for a very short time.
Okay.
And then I decided to join the army because I wanted to become a parabat. And then I obviously qualified there, and I did as much as I can in the army and achieve as much as possible.
Okay.
But obviously, we've been doing for the last close to 40 years crime investigations, anything pertaining any form of safety and security. We got involved with and have been dealing with it since then.
Mike, thank you so much for that clarity. I think it's very important that you've set the record straight for us there, Mike Borges then. And then also joining this conversation is Tahir Mayepa. He's the Secretary General of the Public Service and Commercial Union. Tahir, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important conversation. And good morning to Mike and the listeners.
You know, Mike, I think a good place for us to start, right, is just perhaps with what we're seeing overall and seeing more broadly in as far as the allegations that are being investigated by the Madanga Commission and the ad hoc committee are concerned. The picture that is emerging, I think, is one that worries all South Africans, and rightfully so. As somebody who from time to time has to interact with the SAPS, has to interact with their processes, I imagine also, has to interact with police officers who are busy with investigations, etc., etc. Has there been anything that has come out that has surprised you, that you have thought, well, I didn't see this one coming, I didn't know that this was happening?
Cathy, no. As I've said earlier on, we've been doing this for so long, and we started this kind of corruption on high level in government and high level police years ago, even from General Jackie Salebi's time. We then started sending out projects warning about this, because crime begets crime. If you commit a crime and you get away with it, those that has the mindset of wanting to get involved with crime, and it's always to make money, and the country is already then in a unstable situation politically and financially. Those are the two main reasons why most people take advantage and get a mindset of, I'm going to get involved in crime, will get involved in crime because they can commit it and can get away with it. In other words, if a crime's committed and there's immediate zero tolerance action taken by professional policemen, and it's obvious to the public that you're going to be arrested, incarcerated, and whatever you've stolen or whatever you've done wrong is going to be taken off you and you're going to jail. It shows that crime does not pay. But this doesn't happen, and especially with high-ranking officials. Of late, there has been some policemen that is in jail and some extreme businessmen, but far too little. And they are mostly scapegoats. They are mostly, it's like, and I cannot factually say it, but it's like it's planned. If something does go very bad in organized crime, certain people will take the fall in order to save the others or the group. Or it could be that that specific few has been all the crimes being dumped on them, and with the hope that then would be seen as justice, and the others just move on, carry on committing their crime. So the situation in our country is so bad that it actually doesn't have an effect on ourselves and the public anymore, because it's become the narrative.
Yeah.
You cannot be shocked. Yeah, there is so much media exposure, which is truthful, and we have a very good media. And they don't even sensationalize it anymore because it's not necessary. It's totally sensational. It is so shocking that our country is completely and totally run by organized criminals and racketeers. This is racketeering, and it involves the government, and it involves extreme businessmen and then gangs. This is how organized crime and racketeering work. They've got all those legs. They've got government officials, municipal officials, authorities in positions that make extreme decisions, high-ranking police officers, low-ranking police officers on station level, taxi gangs, other gangs, and hitmen and businessmen, extreme rich businessmen. Those are the legs that organized crime and racketeering stand on. And it's flourishing in South Africa. It's on a bit of a halt now, but the criminals are enjoying it on the low level because the police are fighting the police, the government is fighting the government, and spending millions of rands and time. What's happening to all our cases? What's happening to protect and serve? What is happening to normal policing and getting our country forward? And the worst of all is, it is crippling our country financially. So that's how bad it is.
You know, as I was looking at the appearance of, in particular, the National Commissioner and General Sibiya, because we already know what Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has had to say. We've had months to sort of reflect on it, right? On some of the evidence or the allegations that he has made. One doesn't get a sense of accountability from these officials, and I almost wish that we could have both of them come back, because when we look at the cross-examination of Lieutenant General Sibiya and questions around his relation, maybe not having personal relationships with these individuals, but certainly the kind of access that powerful business people have when it comes to the high brass of the police. I'm actually quite interested to know and to hear how the other top management of the SAPS also relate with these individuals. An individual like a Cathy Mohlahlana, who's a service provider for the police, we're told he would attend police events like any other service provider. He would interact, engage with the senior management of the police. And of course, General Masamula acknowledged the fact that, he was there when Cathy Mohlahlana was appointed. When questions were raised, the investigation revealed there were, undue processes followed, and that's part of why that tender was ultimately then cancelled. But how can somebody who is now being accused of having been involved in such serious crime, and as we understand it, for so long, even have managed to secure a contract with the SAPS? Is it probable that the SAPS management only found out in December last year that Cathy Mohlahlana is the individual that he's now being accused of being?
No, they knew all along.
What do you make of that? And this individual is embedded within the police structure. He's got access to any police officer that he would want because he's a service provider.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. He's just the main focus presently. And the shocking thing is that this has been going on for a long time. Just imagine General Mkhwanazi never stood up. He broke all protocol. Just take that in consideration. It took something. He stood up and he said, and he did something that very few does. He said, what I've said here, I have evidence for. And that opened up the can of worms. And you guys must all remember that all these top officials that have been committing these crimes for years, organized crime cannot just pop up. It is a baby that grows into a monster, which it's now. It's the monster now in totality. They have got extreme rules and regulations. They're not going to stand up and own up to anything. They're not going to say, listen, you know what, check my salary. I get 100,000 rand a month. You won't get more in my accounts. But if you get 100 or 200,000 rand a month and you drive a Lamborghini and you got several houses and you live a lifestyle above that, I mean, it's obvious. So the question still remains, why wasn't that since day one implemented in the police force, that if you got a captain and a brigadier and a general, why isn't the salary scrutinized? Because that's when you find immediately where the person is living a 500,000 rand level, but he only is supposed to get 200,000. And then you must remember, these criminals in our country need protection. They need persons in government, and they need persons in the police, low and high-ranking police officers, and they pay for that. And unfortunately, the mindset in our country is, as I've said, crime pays, you can commit it, we'll do it as much and as possible, constantly, until we get caught out, and then we won't turn against each other, because remember, all these generals and all these guys have files on each other. There are people that have files on the president. There are other generals that have files on other generals. What I mean by files is information. So what I would say, and it's the understanding in racketeering, if you talk, I talk. If you expose me, I expose you. So they stand to lose too much. So they stand as a monster, as a grown, fully organized crime racketeering unit together. And I tell you now, the president has known all along what's going on here. He might not have been able to put his finger on it, but he has known. All the generals has known. And the policemen in any, whether it's in a station or whether it's in a high-profile office in town, they know what other policemen do. There is no such thing that they don't know. It is obvious. You can see it, you pick it up. I have a huge organization. If one of my specialist investigators goes haywire, we pick it up, because it's a close-knit organization. So there is no such thing that they didn't know all these years. They knew it, and they went along. But what do the innocent policemen do? They have no choice to just look away, don't get involved, because otherwise they don't have a job. So this whole organized crime and racketeering thing that's been going on has an extreme intimidation factor on the innocent policemen involved. And they unfortunately now aren't innocent anymore, because you cannot see crime being happening and not expose it and do something about it, because then you're part of the problem.
We're going to continue this conversation. Tahir, I'm also going to bring you in, so please just hang 10 for us. For now, it's 10:30, time for your latest headlines.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines on SAFM, I am Wandela Mbala, and a very good morning. Crime intelligence boss Dumisani Khumalo is back in the Pretoria Magistrates Court. That's after the recusal of the acting chief magistrate Vusi Mahlangu. Khumalo and other senior officials were arrested in June. Tributes are pouring in for Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who has died at the age of 80. His office has confirmed his death. And a 3-year study in Britain has found that specially designed singing classes are both clinically and cost-effective in treating women with postnatal depression. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 17 rand 28 to the dollar, 23 rand 06 to the pound, and 20 rand 10 to the euro. Markets in Asia have extended gains at the closing bell. The JSE is green across the board in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are mainly higher. Gold is trading at $4,208. Platinum $1,652 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $62.25 a barrel.
#SAFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point, and joining us is Mike Bolhuis, a specialist investigator and crime expert, and the Secretary General of the Public Service and Commercial Union, Tahir Maipa. Mike, I just want to come to you regarding one last thing. You say that you believe the president knew and has known about what is happening for a long time, but has done nothing. What gives you that conviction? Because that's a very strong statement to make.
Well, you know, you can have factual information hanging, and if you do nothing about it, it will stay factual information but not proven, because it hasn't been thoroughly investigated and put on black and white and paper and put through a court. So the information that I've said is so because it's there and it's obvious, and it's not only a deduction. You can clearly derive that this is the situation, because this is what brings about the giant that we are seeing of corruption, namely organized crime and racketeering. But because it's not been put on black and white, investigated, as I've explained why it's not done, it remains to be done, and hopefully it will be done now. And a clear reason why I say that the president and all the generals and the police in its totality knows of this is because we as specialist investigators have been working with them since day one, as well as other safety and security organizations and institutions, and has been seeing and saying factually that these and these things are happening, and it needs to be brought to a point where it's on written form and put through the courts to effectively deal with these crimes that's being committed, like neglect and not protecting and serving the public, and the whole thing about gaining money, the extortions, the involvement with businessmen, and allowing those who are not in the police to become close friends in business and other, like construction or other crimes that are being committed where they are involved, like kidnappings, etc., and drug and even prostitution and all and other facets of crimes that are being committed in South Africa, is that it is obvious, you see it. And crime can only flourish when there's authorities involved. And if there is authorities that are not corrupt, there won't be a flourishing of crime. And it has a huge effect on the economy. And now since this has all been exposed and being exposed and it's continuous, we will only see the real effect in the end if any of them are going to be incarcerated, dealt with severely, their Lamborghinis, cars, houses, finances taken, fines, and be totally exposed, because the public has a right. You know, people might think and say, yeah, but why is this all in the public eye, in the public view?
Mm.
A country cannot operate successfully unless the government, the authorities, and the public is transparent. If there's no transparency, there's no respect, there is no trust. And you tell me now, who respects the police and who fears the police?
Tahir, I want to get an assessment from you as a union that operates in this space. Your general assessment of all that you have heard and seen so far. Yes, it speaks to your members and the work that they do on a day-to-day basis. But before we personalize it in that way, just reading the state of the industry, your assessment.
Thank you very much, Cathy. You know, Cathy, when politics enter a police station, professionalism leaves the station. General Mukhwanazi, and now with the advent of Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, has not just exposed an isolated wrongdoing. It has laid bare a crisis of integrity in our policing system. What we are seeing is not just, isolated or few bad police officers, but we are witnessing a broken system held hostage by politics, patronage, and poor leadership. We are really seeing a system in crisis. Police corruption is not a case of so and so and so and so. It's systematic failure, fueled by, in my view, three components or elements, which is political interference, institutional weakness, and toxic internal cultures. Therefore, the situation that we find ourselves in, it's so embedded, Cathy, and politicized that, truly speaking, to get it right is near impossible. We have heard during the testimonies of, for instance, General Mohlahlana, that even the police are divided by political patronages. That in itself is a serious problem. So the solution to this crisis cannot be just a cosmetic bandage address. It really needs an overhaul of the whole system. But the question is that who will be responsible to overhaul the police system? The very corrupt politicians who have created the mess that we find ourselves, or how are we going to do it? I mean, look at our parliament. Our parliament is a crime scene. Most of those people who are there, they are either linked to corrupt dealings, or they are going through courts for allegations of corruptions and all that. And how do you expect these people to hold anyone accountable? Now, this has really gone so deep into the fiber of our society that corruption is becoming a culture, not only in the police, anywhere else in the state and the private sector. Corruption is a go-between for easy money making, because of people are driven by greed. They don't care about the consequence of what they're doing. Everything else can collapse. Hospitals can fall apart. Crime can surge. So long as one or two people can drive these Lamborghinis that Mike is referring to, it's okay. And this is where the problem is, that we really need to dig deep into what is happening. And majority, by the way, Cathy, of ordinary police officers are not necessarily corrupt, but they are there watching that fighting corruption is like fighting against your own employment. So they look away. They just continue with their lives, drawing salaries, because of their impact in trying to fight corruption and criminality is being shortchanged by those who are in positions of power.
So Tahir, is it your own assessment that as one moves high up the ranks, because if we look at these positions, right, they are very clear in terms of the kind of qualifications that one needs to have in order to be considered. Do you think that, in as far as at least your reflections on the systemic culture and failures as well, that as one moves up the ranks, it almost becomes impossible to avoid the politics, to avoid part of what we have heard around relationships with business people, relationships with alleged criminals, and the benefit that one may derive out of that? Because effectively, if I listen to what Mike Ball has said earlier about how these generals have intel on each other, they have files on each other, and this then is what governs the space. So if you don't play by the rules that you have found, then you better be ready to be out the door. And I wonder how that then also affects the future. If we think about a reset of the police service and police management, what would that reset need to entail in order to be effective?
Look, we need to rebuild institutional integrity. Cathy, I'm telling you, in the police services, you will never be a senior official unless if you have a buy-in into the corrupt system of the country, because the politicians will always appoint those who will protect the wrongdoings that are happening, not only in the police services. Remember, the police are there to enforce the law. It's not to make the law. It's to enforce the law. So when you have captured those who enforce the law, automatically, then the impunity comes into being. Then the politicians can only do as they wish. And for the politicians to steal from the fiscals of the state. They can't do it themselves. They need to be in cahoot with criminal elements.
Tahir, sorry for pausing you there. You
Yes.
said that you cannot rise to the higher echelons within the police without having buy-in from the politicians and some individuals that are inherently corrupt that would want to protect their interests. Do you believe that to be true for all the police
Yes.
management in this country?
Not all,
Okay.
Cathy, not all, but I can assure you, majority of those who have been recently, maybe in the past 10, 15 years, given senior positions. And that is why now, Cathy, you can see when we dig deep into the qualifications of these people, majority of them didn't even meet the basic requirements for them to be in those particular positions. But how did they get there? They got there because of they are there to serve the corrupt system. The only thing that some of them, remember people like General Sidia and all that, they come from the old order. These people are used to doing wrong things. It's not like they're starting to be entangled into politics and service now. They know that for you to be able to survive in this system, you require to have political heads who are going to protect you and make sure that you are looked after. But then you must also look after them. So my statement is based on the fact that some of these generals who have been appointed into these senior positions didn't meet the requirement. The question is, why did they put them there? It's because of political patronage. They are saving the politics and political masters, not the system or the policing system. And that's exactly what we are seeing. I mean, a person like Nkanka Mkhwana could have been a national commissioner a long time ago, but they could not because of he's a very straight and narrow kind of a police officer who just wants to say he can't be trusted by criminals. So you don't put a person like that into a position of privilege. But what we are seeing is that so long as there's no transparency and there's no strong oversight in terms of how senior positions are being dished out, especially in the police sector, then you are going to continuously have the very same position where people who are unqualified are appointed into senior positions, but to serve criminality and politicians.
Okay. Mike, I want to bring you in here before I start taking some of our listeners. What is needed to fix the problem? How is this fixed if you are perhaps sitting as advising the president on what to do now? Because I think we're at a point where it's almost, I want to find the right word. It's almost inconsequential at this point.
Unsolvable.
What can be found to be, absolute criminality or wrongdoing. So in the midst of all of these allegations, even if there were cases to be held tomorrow and people came out and their names were cleared, it does not change the picture that has already been painted in front of us, right? So what then is to be done anyway to fix the SAPS?
Yeah, I first want to compliment the gentleman talking with me. He's saying it as it is, and that's what we should. There is no transparency. And this has been going on for years and years. As I've said, getting the level of corruption that we have in our country, it's on such a level that it actually seems unsolvable because we've gone through this, through so many commissions. And it's very clear that the saying crime pays is working. They see themselves as untouchable. And it's because there is no real punishment. And you ask, real policing. I ask myself many a time, these generals, do they really know what to protect and serve means? Do they really study the books of real policing? Do they really have the integrity and the want to be a policeman, to help the country, to save the country money, to curb crime, really hate crime, try and change criminals, rehabilitation, really care? Can they run 100 meters? Or are they so overweight in their fat lives that they can't even move? Are they healthy? Are they willing, able, and capable? Do they really know what policing is about? I mean, do they go out of their way and care and love us and want to save this country? Or, as we have seen now, it is absolute blatant selfishness, and that creates a hate from us and the public, and I don't blame them. So the solution is real investigations by independent people that cannot be influenced or corrupted. Because remember, the previous gentleman said, who's going to do this? And who's going to take over? And who's going to see this through? So real investigations must be done and ongoing. And then real policemen, fully and totally qualified, must be put in place after investigations has been done. And even then, those that have been investigated and found guilty, as I've said, must be really punished. Everything must be really done, and it must be real, and it must be in the eye of the public. If we want to get the public to not go with the flow, or to just say to themselves, you know what, this country is, and you know what word I want to use, I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm going to steal a handbag. I'm going to steal a cell phone. That's how crime starts. It starts small. And now we see popping up everywhere small organized crime syndicates. Look at the hospital situation. Look at the pension funds being stolen. Look at the contract hijackings, etc., etc., etc. It's just a mindset. It's just that everybody does it. Everybody gets involved. So real punishment, real jail time, real taking of funds, and real policemen in place, which salaries are checked on a monthly basis. If you want to be a policeman, if I'm the president of this country, I will not appoint a man in authority in this country, ever, unless he has the absolute passion, ability, able and capable qualifications and physical possibilities to curb, investigate, identify, evaluate crime, solve crime, and prevent crime.
Okay.
Those are the criteria.
Okay. Let me bring in Crispin in Durban. Crispin, good morning.
I think what I'm saying is following on from some of this. One thing that struck me, it wasn't these allegations, these very lurid allegations, so much as simply the way in which people who are giving evidence seem to have spoken to each other. I was thinking, do they really use that kind of language, aggressive language of speaking to each other? What kind of culture is that? Perhaps the term professionalism may feel a bit foreign, all right? But let's just say, use an alternative African philosophy of, say, Ubuntu. Well, that kind of language, that way of speaking to each other, is at odds with both of those concepts. And it's a kind of particularly masculine, kind of domineering, I'm the top dog and you've got to take stuff from me approach. I think it comes partly from the long apartheid heritage. I think it also comes from the time that Bheki Cele said that, we're going to reorganize the police on a military basis. So we're always at war with somebody instead of actually doing the kind of slow, professional, attentive work that's actually needed to make this a success, and that would earn the respect of people.
Because one wonders how they can work together, as you're saying, Crispin, when this is the tone, this is the language, and it clearly is very much about who gets to be the ultimate man in the room. from the lens within which you're looking at it, one does get a very strong sense of patriarchy there.
Yeah, I had one experience. Somebody threatened to kill me. I went to the local police station, and I spoke to an officer there, and I said, this is the situation. I think I should bring a charge against the person. It was a woman who listened to what I had to say and then began discussing with me the implications of what I could do. It was just a model of excellent policing, I thought. Just a model of something which is nothing about scoring points. It'll never appear on her performance management that she helped me in this way. But I thought she's really here to serve the community, and it was such a rare and positive experience. And that's what I'd like to see come out of all of this. Something that says it's not just a matter of which gang is going to win here against which other gang.
Yeah.
It really should be about what kind of policing we should have.
Okay. All right,
yeah.
Crispin, thanks for that contribution. Mark, you in Newlands, good morning.
Hi, Cathy, so much. Nice to chat to you again. Thank you for taking my call. And also, what an interesting debate. But I think also, let me just throw in a little bit of hope. And the hope is that I think people are seeing what's gone wrong in our country. It's reflected in the fact that our votes the ANC went down to 40%, which tells you that the people in the country are beginning to realize we're not in a good place, and we're not being well managed by the party that we elected. I think also we must not forget that when a political party, and this was said by both Zuma and Ramaphosa, that they put the party first. In other words, the ANC always comes first and the country comes second. Now, when you've got that kind of mindset, and then you've got, of course, people put into positions that are ANC-appointed cadres, we are actually obviously on the road to ruin, and that's, of course, where we are right now, right at the bottom of the road, and I think we're in deep trouble. And I think the other thing is, so the people are speaking out, but it is reflected. It's reflected. I remember when Nelson Mandela was buried, not just on that incident. I think I remember reading in the UK when I was there that somebody had made £50 million or £5,000 on backhanders on Nelson Mandela's funeral, and I was shocked to see it not in Tetua's funeral just the other day. People in ANC regalia and beautifully dressed and all looking very respectful. At the end of the funeral, they then started stealing the food parcels and running off, covering their faces so they couldn't be identified. We seem to have, unfortunately, because of this party first thing, we've lost the ability and we're not able to act as South Africans and know that we'll be protected as a South African and not as a member of the ANC. So I think in the next election we will see the end of the ANC. I believe South Africans have woken up, and I don't think we should be too gloomy. I would love to have a reset, as you suggest. That's not going to happen. I think the people of South Africa are going to speak in the next election, and I think that will certainly bring in a balance to our... Well, thanks, Cathy.
Okay. Nhlanhla, you're in KZN. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister Katie. How are you?
Nhlanhla, I'm well. Let's go for it. We don't have much time.
My sister Katie, I don't believe that this is an ANC problem only.
Absolutely.
Yes. All the political parties knew what was happening. It's just that it wasn't put in the open for the citizens to know. So I hold all the political parties accountable on this issue. And for example, what is happening in Eastern Cape Flats and so on, it's a manifestation of of the involvement of the politicians and the drug lords working together. Just like how one of the books, How Democracy Dies, American books, it gets to expose how American democracy was destroyed through the same system. So, in short, we have been voting for the criminals, and we need to change our voting system, and we need to change how we vote as citizens. And it also lies with us citizens to stand up and decide who must lead us in the right way. Thank you, my sister Katie.
Thanks for that, Ntlantla. So as we get ready then to wrap up this conversation, Tahir, what are the next steps that you believe we should be pushing and advocating for as a public to try and deal with some of these issues? You spoke about transparency earlier. Is it that, we should see interviews for the National Commissioner being held in Parliament in front of our eyes for all of us to scrutinize? I mean, how far should we be going with this thing?
Cathy, look, for us to be able to restore the independence and professionalism in the police services, I believe that we at the point where we need independent appointed processes, establish a non-partisan vetting panel constituting civil society, legal and policing experts for all the senior positions, from the national commissioner to a station commander. Take the politics out of policing. I mean, the Maglanga Commission showed us that what happens when power replaces professionalism. We need merit-based leadership. Leadership must be earned through competence and integrity, not political proximity. We need to rebuild institutional integrity by making sure that whistleblowers are protected, create a dedicated and independent protection unit within SAPS with legal and financial safeguard. If we don't protect those who speak out, we are protecting those who steal. And this is the situation at this point. We need to empower IPID. IPID is a toothless body currently. We need to grant it a full budget autonomy and authority to investigate senior officers without political interference.
Okay.
We need oversight bodies that are not dependent on handouts from political budget, but they need to be institutionalized in such a manner that they can be able to deal with these elite, corrupt individuals and make sure that they are dealt with expeditiously. Because some of the things that we are hearing now, they've been known for a very long time, Katie. It's not like they are being revealed now. The police knew about political interference and the link between criminals and politicians today. They had those files, but they didn't have the power to implement them because of the situation within the police. We need a thorough audit in terms of how money in SAPS has been used, especially these slush funds in the intelligence subdivision of SAPS, because that's where monies are stifled into really bad stuff. Because of that money, you don't really have to account as you would account as a normal department. So all these things will try and build that ethical conduct within the South African police services.
Tahir, we're going to leave it there. Mike, we'll also leave it there. Thank you both for your contributions to this conversation and the perspectives that you've given us all. It's time for your latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, crime intelligence boss Khumalo back in court and a call for punitive measures on men impregnating underage girls. For SAFM News, I'm Ondilambana and a very good morning. Crime intelligence boss Dumisani Khumalo is back in the Pretoria Magistrates Court. This after the recusal of the acting chief magistrate Vusi Mahlangu. Khumalo and other senior officials were arrested in June. They face charges related to the alleged irregular appointment of Dineo Mukwele to a senior post in crime intelligence, allegedly without proper vetting. Khumalo has approached the court to have his bail conditions relaxed after an internal probe cleared him. Indian police have confirmed that former Kenya's Prime Minister Raila Odinga died after suffering cardiac arrest while undergoing treatment in India. He'll be remembered for his role in restoring multi-party democracy and protecting human rights in Kenya. The BBC's Richard Kagowe reports.
Raila Odinga was a towering figure in Kenyan and African politics, inspiring a generation across sub-Saharan Africa. The son of freedom fighter Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Kenya's first vice president, Raila was educated in East Germany before returning home in the 1970s. He was detained for 6 years after being accused of involvement in a coup attempt in 1982 and was later rearrested for pushing for democracy under one-party rule. He returned from exile after the reintroduction of multi-party politics and went on to serve as a member of parliament.
Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Social Development says it is satisfied with the progress of the Social Security Agency SASSA in KwaZulu-Natal in implementing biometric registration of grant beneficiaries. The committee is a 3-day oversight visit to the provincial offices of SASSA and the National Development Agency. Bridget Masango is the committee's chairperson.
The first day was quite insightful and eye-opening because that's when we got our first take on the verification process, and we saw it live at the Denga local office. But that was after we got a presentation of how the KZN SASSA is operating and with how much capacity in terms of both officers and staff members and how they work with their stakeholders.
Gender activist Dr. Promise Mthembu has called on society to punish men that impregnate underage girls. Dr. Mthembu from an NPO, Her Rights Initiative, has been reacting to the Health System Trust's shocking report, which revealed that 31,088 girls between the ages of 10 and 19 gave birth in KwaZulu-Natal between April 2023 and March 2024. Dr. Mthembu says communities should be proactive in dealing with the issue.
There has to be like some sort of sanction for these men that are impregnating young women and girls at a community and also at a familial level, so that they take responsibility, so that they know that this is not done in the community, this is not the culture of the community. This is outside the behavior of this particular community. Because if you are doing that, you are changing behaviors and perception at a community level where the problem is, rather than relying on the criminal justice problem. Because also the criminal justice system is going to deal with this man as an individual. And dealing with an individual is not going to change the perception and the behavior of the community.
A 3-year-old study in Britain has found that specially designed singing classes are both clinically and cost-effective in treating women with postnatal depression. Researchers at King's College London studied 200 mothers with symptoms. The BBC's Jim Reid reports.
Melodies for Mums is a 10-week singing programme in South London for women at high risk of postnatal depression. Small groups work through a mix of lullabies, folk and gospel in different languages. This research followed 200 mothers with symptoms of postnatal depression and compared those on a specialist singing course with those offered standard play classes. Both groups saw an improvement, but only those in the music group continue to benefit in the longer term. Researchers say the dropout rate was much lower and women felt more comfortable in a group with others experiencing the same symptoms.
Recapping the top story, crime intelligence boss Dumisani Khumalo is back in the Pretoria Magistrates Court. This after the recusal of the acting chief magistrate Vusi Mahlangu. Khumalo and other senior officials were arrested in June. I'm Undilambana for SFM News headlines at 11:30.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Oh, well done, Bafana Bafana. Kathy, Gen Zs are doing the most. Look, all over the world, Gen Zs are taking up arms. Gen Zs are the ones who are coming to the front. They're leading now. We see it in Bafana Bafana as well, and congratulations. Let's hope the Gen Zs of South Africa will do likewise. They will stand up and reclaim our country. Thank you very much. Tang Polokwane.
Hi, Kete, it's Chris in Kimberton. You know, I think we all see that there is a serious overhaul that needs to happen. But secondly, we need to put systems in place to ensure that we can eliminate people before they even get in. And thirdly, we need to vet all the people who are there and check up even the vetting processes. If it needs be, we must include independent vetters to do it, because currently we are not going to regain the public trust on the SAPS.
Good morning, Kathy, your production team, and listeners. Kathy, you know, it's very painful of what is happening to South Africans because, you know, if corruption is so rampant at that highest level, what about on the ground? And believe you me, it's happening here on the ground. We see these things happening. It's a pity that you cannot whistleblow. I mean, who are we? Who am I? If they can kill high-profile individuals who are whistleblowing, who am I? People on the ground, they kill you like nothing. So we see these things. We are quiet. There's nothing we can do. You will be eliminated from this planet Earth. You know. So people are driven by greed and corruption. South Africa is in trouble. My God, I wish the dead could rise and see what their sacrifice has become. Thank you very much. Dick in the First State for School.
Good morning, Kathy. It's Sunday, like KZN Gwamakucha. Kathy, I think the problem starts, especially with SAPS. It starts at the recruitment point. That's where the problem starts. That's where the real corruption is happening. You know, you don't get real people who are really passionate about crime fighting or are passionate about their country, about to help the country. But you get people who are going there just to get a job. And then what do you expect from that? You know, those kinds of things. That's where the problem is. Recruitment. They must look at that.
Casey, we repeat this crime problem, how to solve this titanic crime problem every day. It's not gonna be solved unless we are very strict and firm in our criminal justice system, law enforcement. We must say enough is enough so that these people don't just get away with crime, you see. Thanks. Willie here in Kuma.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, thanks for those voice notes. And yeah, I think lots of issues for us to consider. What we do all agree on is that there clearly needs to be some significant changes made so that the public can once again have a reason to believe in the work of the SAPS, that confidence can yet again be restored. Well, let's switch our attention to this story now. This past week marking a crucial moment as thought leaders gathered at a conference on accelerating equality in food, land and water systems, addressing urgent challenges impacting millions worldwide. The event highlighted solutions to systemic inequality in resource access and sustainability. What we know is that for a country like ours, women only own 13% of land which can be used for farming, and youth only have access to land through inheritance or rental schemes. So there are incredible barriers for young people, and maybe to focus only on what we consider to be marginalized groups in this instance may not be the most appropriate, because in a country like South Africa, we know that land is an issue more broadly for South Africans, and in particular, black South Africans, right? And so within that, you have women and young people who have the least access to land, to finance, and also to markets for their products where they are producing goods. Sipati Mohlahlana is the Research Officer for Gender, Social Inclusion and Youth at the International Water Management Institute. Sipati, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for making time for us. And Evaristo Mapedza is a senior researcher and social and institutional scientist also from the International Water Management Institute. Evaristo, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Good morning, listeners. Thank you very much, Cathy.
Sipati, perhaps if you can start us off with just what is the problem that we're looking at. So, in a nutshell, give us the problem statement here.
Good morning, Benjamin. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and good morning to everybody who's listening. The problems that we are faced with here is, issues related to inequality in terms of access to food, land, and water systems, which are critical at this point in time. In a nutshell, we are really at the final 5 years of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, and progress on gender equality is really much off track in this regard. We know that women make up nearly half of the world's agricultural workforce, and as you had said earlier on, they have the least amount access to land, to finances, to decision-making powers and processes. So we're trying to really address the issues of social inequality within food systems, because if we cannot address inequality in these systems, we cannot have sustainable and resilient systems which will accelerate inequality in turn. So this is not just a moral issue, Cathy, of addressing inequality. It is also an economic and environmental necessity.
What is the consequence of this lack of access?
The consequences are really related to social dynamics, economic dynamics, environmental dynamics as well. We do come across cases of, gender-based violence because, women are unable to equally participate in land ownership and financial management and decision-making processes. We also see a surge of youth, young people not being able to participate in the economy through land and water systems, which is really now scourging up and scaling up the youth unemployment rate, youth in economic activity rate. We also see land not being equitably distributed and not being used, and these sort of now lend themselves to socioeconomic problems that really manifest themselves in our communities and in our economies, where people cannot, access resources and use them for social and economic value.
Evaristo, given the fact that the doors of access are seemingly closed to particular groups, and I said, in the intro that I believe in South Africa, yes, you have marginalized groups like youth and like women that are overly burdened, right, with lack of access. They face really the worst of the system in that regard. But certainly, there must also be an acknowledgement of how access affects even the men of this country, and in particular, I think, black men.
Thank you very much, Cathy, for the opportunity. And yes, indeed, the point that you raise is quite key, that if we are looking at access in terms of land resources in South Africa, we actually need to ground it within the historical trajectory that the country has gone through. So you would see that women are some of the marginalized, but we also look at men, black men as well. You would see that in terms of access, you bring in the racial dimension that you need to understand. So you need to understand these particular dynamics and on how they impact people's access to land resources. Some of the barriers that women and youth are facing, some of them we have to do with the way in which the norms are developed around what masculinity and what men and what women are expected to do. One of the things which is a disadvantage, which my colleague also alluded to, is the fact that women are being marginalized not because of what they can do, but because of who they are. So it's not about capability. It's about access, providing access and resources for them so that they have better access to better resources in order to be able to make a meaningful contribution. It is rather unfortunate that we are seeing that as a result of that, we are seeing that there's feminization of poverty and feminization of agriculture within South Africa, where the women are continually being marginalized, and as well as the youth, where you see that the youth are being seen as being the leaders of tomorrow, whereas the youth are existing today, and we need to pay attention to the requirements, demands of the youth at the moment. They are being impacted right now.
So what are the things that you believe need to start being done differently?
There are a number of ways that we can begin to act differently. Both we're looking here at even at both at state level and also at private sector level. For instance, as part of the consultative group on international agricultural research, we have developed some frameworks which help us help women have access to agricultural land and water resources. Within that framework, we actually look at looking at reach. How do we reach women, which is the first step? But reaching women on its own is not adequate. For instance, you would see that in South Africa, what has been happening is that in terms of procurement, there have been some provisions which would enable women to have access to certain resources. But what is happening is that sometimes women have access, but they are not benefiting. For us, what we are saying is that we don't want women to be sort of part of people who are fronted as being empowered, but we would want women to also benefit from those initiatives by the government and the private sector. Beyond benefit, we also want women to be empowered. Where they are empowered, they have agency. They make decisions within the land and water food systems and make decisions on that and take leadership roles where they make decisions. And in the end, we would then see that women are being transformed in terms of their lives within South Africa. So in terms of thinking around this, so we say reach, yes, it's important to reach women, but on its own, it's not enough. We need women to benefit, but benefiting on its own, it's not enough. Reach and benefit is not enough, but we also need to empower the women. And in the end, the final peak of this sort of framework would provide us transforming, not just transforming the agricultural sector, but it is, as my colleague was saying, this is smart economics. You can't have more than half of your citizens not benefiting from the land and water resources. So if you bring them in, it means that you are actually doing yourself a favor in terms of expanding the gross national product and also making sure that you are also reducing on unemployment, which is a major issue, especially for women and youth.
Sipati, one of the challenges in our country is that even in instances where people have been given access to land, whether it's women, whether it's young people, is that it's not enough to just say, here's a piece of land. There needs to be support, right? Because often the condition in which this land is, it needs to be worked on. There's infrastructure that needs to be set up. The implements that need to go into making sure that it's up and running in order to produce food, in order to make it sustainable. And all of those things cost money, but they also need the know-how, right? You need people who would be able to walk the journey with these individuals. And that's not what we see.
Yes, Cathy, you are absolutely correct. There is sort of like a bridge, not a bridge per se, but sort of like a disconnect between policymakers and communities, between marginalized people and people who sit in government, and also to an extent the private sector. So what we do here at the CGR is that we use collaborative, inclusive research and intervention mechanisms as a base. So what I mean by that is that we use collaboration as a method of including young women, young men at the decision-making table first and foremost, and not just as beneficiaries or of the intervention programs that we do in terms of land and water access, but we also include them as co-creators in policy decision-making spaces. How we do this is that we partner with governments so that we align with national policies and with global commitments as well, such as sustainable development goals and COP pledges as well. The reason why we do this is that because we want to ensure that commitments are implemented on a very local basis. So civil society and private sector can help bridge the gap between policy and practice by piloting inclusive models that can later be scaled from local to national. So with these, we're trying to bridge the gap between communities and marginalized groups, and as well as stakeholders in government and in the private sector. So with the principle of collaboration and co-creating, we don't want to impose certain things. We want to start from the very beginning by listening to the utmost needs of women and communities, and go on this journey with them as equal partners in shaping the interventions that we are bringing forth. I've also spoken about aligning with national frameworks so that, they are accounting for local realities. The policies that are there must translate into on-the-ground support, in terms of securing land rights, inclusive governance structures and accountability mechanisms. These must all be context-specific so that we are addressing the real needs and not just, going with a one-size-fits-all approach. We must be very context-specific. We must be very appropriate in terms of how we engage with our marginalized groups, how we build partnerships, and how we go about in our intervention programs.
Evaristo, the changing climate has had its own impact. So while we're talking about the need for access, the reality is that in some places, even if you were to grant access to men, women, young people in a way that hasn't existed before, due to the changing climate, what was possible on that land 10, 20 years ago may not necessarily be viable today. How do we deal with that?
Thank you very much, Cathy. That's a key point, that we are experiencing climate change globally, and we are living with the consequences. But what climate change does is that it exposes the fault lines of inequalities that we have within the country. It sort of amplifies them. You see more of the implications of that. What does that mean then in terms of increasing access to land? It then means that we need to be producing more from limited amount of water resources. From our institute, at the International Water Management Institute, we talk about more crops per drop, where we are aiming for increasing productivity. But the challenge that we face in terms of increasing productivity is that that productivity is gendered, where you see that the women and youth are producing at a lower level, not because they cannot produce at a higher level, but that the whole system, the whole planning is working against them. For instance, we talk about introduction of artificial intelligence and how we can use climate smart agriculture. For climate smart agriculture, we are talking about farmers getting early warning systems, early warning about the rainfall patterns and what they need to do in order to respond to the changing climate. But if women have less access to that information, already they are starting a marathon from a very disadvantaged position. Others are already well ahead of them. And then we also look at the issue of capital. You then need to invest and buy inputs and climate smart seeds, which are appropriate for the changing climate. But what you would see is that for the youth and the women, once they want to go and get loans from banks and financial institutions, in most cases, they are denied. And one of the ways that we have been working with the private sector is to help develop a credit scoring system which appreciates the position of women so that they are not disadvantaged when they go to apply for funding to respond to the changing climate. And we also know that some of the things that we have challenges here is also investment in new infrastructure, such as irrigation, for instance, which is highly capital intensive. So if you don't have access to capital required to invest into irrigation, you're already starting from a disadvantaged position. So we see climate change as exacerbating the challenges that women are already facing.
All right, I want to bring in some of the voice notes that have come through.
Hi, Cathy and your guests. The issue of land, it's a very painful issue, especially for us black men. We are also grossly marginalized because politically all the funds that are gotten from land restitution goes to those that are politically connected. The tribal land belongs to the royal family. So if you are a black man and you are not that associated to any of the above, you are on your own. I worked for 20 years, the South African government. They gave me 2 million. Only now, in my mid-40s, am I able to buy myself a piece of land. Now I've got the land, I don't have money to work the land. Now I have to work again for another 10, 15 years so that I can do something with a piece of land. It's hard, Cathy. It's very hard.
Good morning, Cathy. I'm listening to your discussion at the moment in terms of lack of access, specifically for around black people. I actually categorically reject that notion. If you look at every single government policy, it is geared towards black people in this country. It is geared towards access for black women, for black youth, for black entrepreneurs, whether it's the IDC, whether it is the National Youth Development Forum, whether it is policies regarding hiring, the new bill that's coming out as well. So I actually, and as a colored person, I actually reject that notion categorically that there's a lack of access for black people. I think we need to stop this victim mentality amongst ourselves and actually get up and do things for ourselves. I mean, in South Africa, everything is geared towards black people as the majority. So I actually categorically reject your notion.
Yeah, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Interesting there. Look, we can reject the notion, and it's one thing for something to exist in policy. It's another for it to be implemented and to then become a reality and an experience of a people. And that perhaps is at the heart of what we're talking about today. Regardless of what exists in policy, we can look at triple BEE. It exists in policy, but what is the actual state of black people in this country? The majority, the inequality numbers speak to the state of black people. I don't want us to confine it to the few million black people that have managed to make it into the middle class and live in Sandton. No, I'm talking about the real, actual numbers of what the face of this country looks like. We'll take the latest news headlines and wrap up with our guests on the other side of this.
Thank you, Cathy. On the news headlines, the case against head of crime intelligence Dumisani Khumalo and his co-accused has been postponed to the 6th of November this year. More than 77,000 candidates will sit down for the National Senior Certificate exams in the Western Cape this year. That's over 3,000 more full-time candidates than last year. And Indian police have confirmed that former Kenyan Prime Minister Raila Odinga died after suffering cardiac arrest while undergoing treatment in India. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
#SAFM Talking Point.
All right, we continue the conversation on the talking point. So maybe just a reflection from you, Sipati, on what our listeners had to say and your concluding remarks.
Thank you, Cathy, and also very insightful voice notes from the listeners. And if I may just pick on the second voice note where the gentleman was speaking on rejecting all of the policies and what's really happening on the ground. I really also want to extend on your sentiment, Cathy, that we shouldn't look at our current circumstances as a nation, as communities, as marginalized people looking at it from a now lens. I think what we need to do is that we need to really take a step back and take account for, how long Black communities, how long Black women have been marginalized. This is more than hundreds of years. We also need to be cognizant of, the current socioeconomic neoliberal policies that are working against us when you're trying to implement certain policies and certain initiatives. So I think, it is going to take rather a bit of time to reach everyone, to ensure that everybody is covered, to get to the numbers. But in the interim, we need to keep doing the work. We need to keep reaching the numbers, just to ensure that everyone, when I mean everyone, I'm extending from Black women, young people, colored, marginalized communities, in line with our constitution, our Bill of Rights. We need to keep the work going. We need to use these policies to their full effect in order to ensure that we really, really, really deal with the issue of social inequalities. Because when we fail to do so, it is just a perpetuation of things, past injustices that have gone on. So we really need to keep on doing the work and reaching the people who need help the most. So thank you so much.
All right, Evaristo?
Thank you very much, Cathy. And I think to the viewers, to the comments made, I would say that it is important that collectively, irrespective of who you are, people need to come together and map out collective solutions in order to address the SDGs of no poverty and also gender equality. I think it is important that we work together collectively and come up with solutions. It is in discussing and talking to each other that we can transform the land and water food systems within South Africa. It's not, I think, let's not maybe be pointing fingers, but I encourage that we make collective action and map out directions. And thanks for the good policies, but those have to be put in practice as well. So thank you, Cathy.
All right, thanks for that conversation. Evaristo Mapedza and Seipati Mokema, they're both from the International Water Management Institute. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And on the other side of that, it's our G20 wrap with Lerato Tsebe.
Get ready for the biggest flavors from South Africa's smallest chefs. The Taste Master Junior, every Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2, follows 12 talented teens as they whisk, chop, and bake their way through fun foodie challenges and try to impress the judges Zola Nene and Fritz Squin, who will rise to the top and be crowned South Africa's next culinary star. Don't miss the Taste Master Junior, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. only on SABC2.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 rand and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Cathy Mohlahlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, let's get into our G20 wrap. Lerato Tsebe, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Welcome back. It's nice to hear from all of you.
Yeah, it's great to also have you on. I know our journey has been a bit bumpy because there's been all of these things happening, right? The country has been all eyes glued to the Madlanga Commission, to the ad hoc committee. So that has been interrupting our usual programming quite a bit. But Of course, it doesn't mean that while we are focused on, this evidence, it doesn't mean that it's not business as usual elsewhere. And it also doesn't mean that we're not hosting the G20 leaders next month, does it?
Not at all. It's not even this. I guess it is next month, but we've got less than 40 days now to go.
Yeah.
South Africa, you can say many things about us as a country, but the one thing you can't say is that we are a boring nation. We're hosting Mohlahlana commissions on the one end and half of the world's largest economies here on the other. So we do quite a lot.
We do.
It's always about striking that delicate balance in between.
And the construction I see has now moved up to the M1 Greyston off-ramp. So very soon it's going to be leading to the convention centers and any other places where these delegates are going to be staying.
I agree. They're going to be staying quite almost, I think, everywhere, Cathy. So I think the cities are all getting ready to host them, and rightfully so. We've got thousands of people descending into the city of Johannesburg in the next 3-4 weeks. So we do need to be ready.
Maybe for those weeks that the officials are here, we must think about the ad hoc committee and the Mohlahlana commission, because in the hotel rooms when they switch, they're going to come across all sorts of drama and think, what kind of country is this now? Yesterday was the closing of Women's 20, Lerato. Tell us about the report that they compiled, a comprehensive review of the first 10 years of Women's 20.
Yes, so the W20, like the G20 itself, was undergoing its 10-year review. G20 is undergoing its 20-year review, and the summit overall, Cathy, has just really been looking towards women's economic empowerment, advancing gender equality, getting women leaders across the globe together to really sort of set in stone where the next 10 to 20 years are taking us as a country, and not even as a country, I think as a community of women globally. The keynote speaker was, thankfully, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Naledi Pandor, and she sort of outlined, what it is we need to be doing as women and what some of our challenges are. And she's saying, we need to argue for a globe where there's multipolarity and more women included, but also how women need to be responsible with how they yield their power and not be more men, essentially sitting at the table, or adapting the rather more casual ways and the ways within which men exercise power. The 10-year review, Cathy, interestingly enough, was done in collaboration with the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. And it was entitled From Advocacy to Implementation, A Decade of Women 20 Influence on Global Gender Policy from 2015 to 2024. The 10-year review looked at a lot of different issues, including how to integrate gender equality into the main G20 leaders' agenda, entrepreneurship, financial inclusion, education, GBV, climate justice, etc., etc. What the report found is that there are massive implementation gaps in between annual hostings of W20 meetings as they are in G20 meetings, and consequently a lot of the work that the groups do lags behind, and all we seem to be gathering is declaration rhetoric and less policy reformations, which is what we desperately need right now. The report, Cathy, has recommended that there be an establishment, rather, an operationalization of a secretariat where all the W20 ideas and rather thematic areas can be consolidated so they can be in continuity, essentially, and especially within the legislative realm. The report looked at issues like how to institutionalize W20 in G20 governance processes, strengthening accountability mechanisms, and aligning G20 initiatives that focus on gender and W20 recommendations. So we need to marry those two things. Why they aren't married as of right now, I really don't know. But it's a very long-winded report. Very thorough report as well. But really, I think the recommendation of a secretariat is welcome.
We also had the G20 Trade and Investment Ministers adopting a consensus declaration at the end of last week. What does that declaration say, and does it have any impact in light of AGOA and that particular agreement not being renewed?
So, Cathy, there's a lot happening. So, just to update our audience, the African Growth and Opportunity Act was meant to be renewed by the United States Congress at the end of September. That did not happen, and that time has lapsed. However, the team from the Department of Trade and Industry, has come in to really reassure everybody that the act itself is still in operation, and that there hasn't been a slowdown or a collapsing of trade between the United States and or South Africa. It is still in force and it is still in action. There's a lot going on, Cathy, within the trade arena, obviously, in light of this, as there are very serious challenges that are coming in from the continental United States about the wording, the meaning and the structure of how AGOA is going to continue, not just between the United States and South Africa, but the United States and Africa. There's internal renegotiations going on within Congress itself. Now, this is all happening, Cathy, in light of the fact that there is, big challenges that are going on in the WTO, and this draft declaration was very useful, I found, and quite amazing. I also thought that we had any degree of consensus given the global tensions that are going on with trade, not just with the United States and China, but globally as a whole. There was a lot of discussions at the meeting amongst the ministers about WTO reforms, not just the reforms itself, but there's also challenges and a lot of divisions about the directions that the reformations need to take place, about the dispute settlement system within the WTO, which is a massive issue as it has collapsed, which means that states, parties, and state signatories to WTO conventions have no lateral plateau to go and discuss what it is their challenges are with another state and or with a body and or piece of legislation, and also about the role in future, about where developing countries are headed within the WTO itself. Although there are all these challenges, and there should be, there is some sort of consensus going forward that there's a careful balance in positions and wording in our statement about where we want trade to go. And we acknowledge that there are challenges, obviously, in the system, and that we want to have a very constructive ministerial conference next year in Cameroon. The World Trade Organization's 14th ministerial conference will meet in Cameroon next year, where a lot of these issues will be ironed out. I left the declaration at draft form, so in terms of seeing the final and the actual verbatim wording, I don't want to quote myself, but so far, at the very least, we got a statement that was agreed upon.
Okay, Lerato, we're going to have to leave it there. That's all we have time for today. The G20 wrap with Lerato Tsebe. That's how we leave it on the Talking Point. Show back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday. Up next, the book reading.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Ted.
There were also racial incidents that were not so innocent. More than once, when I was at the customer service counter, white customers would see me and demand to speak to a manager, not accepting that I was that person. Normally, I could handle the situation. One day, however, a customer simply refused to talk to me, making it clear that a black manager was not acceptable. Seeing how put out she was, I offered to call our head office, something that was still occasionally done back then. We put her through to our head of retail operations at that time, Simon Suzman, who later became CEO and is chairman of the board today. Ma'am, with the greatest respect, we'd really appreciate it if you would stop shopping at Woolworths. That person you're talking about is one of our staff members, and this is how things are, Simon said, after the woman had shared her grievances over not finding a white manager at the store. She was so shocked, as was I, while I had been struggling to believe that someone felt so strongly about me being black that she refused to let me assist her. Now I was equally astonished to see that someone else who was white felt so strongly about my right to do my job that he was prepared to tell a customer we did not need her business. Woolworth's cardinal rule has always been that the customer is always right. Simon's response was a clear message to the whole Woolworths system, both customers and employees who saw or would later hear about this incident, that when it came to ensuring that Woolworth's black colleagues were treated as part of the company, the customer was not always right. This was one of my first direct racial confrontations, and it opened my eyes to the fact that white people committed to treating people fairly and equally, regardless of race, also existed. It also demonstrated the power business leaders could wield when they clearly decided to change the status quo and were willing to say that certain behavior was no longer acceptable. Those years at Woolworths in Cape Town showed me how an organization or business can be a microcosm of what is happening in the larger society, and how whatever is happening externally plays back in the workplace. There were about 8 black people in our trainee peer group of 30, and the relationship between white and black trainees was collegial and supportive. In fact, it was because of our familiarity as a group that differences in the way we were incorporated into the company came to light. Over time, numerous revelations were made, from the fact that all the black trainees had tertiary degrees, while the same minimum requirement did not seem to have been applied to our white counterparts, to company policies that affected us but about which we were deliberately not informed. One of the first examples that came up was around the cost trainees had incurred in relocating to Cape Town from other parts of the country. One day, the black trainees were sharing experiences when a woman mentioned that some of her things had been damaged and broken in her move. She explained that she couldn't afford a removal truck and so had been forced to load her furniture onto a bus. "But why didn't the company pay for your move?" I asked, having recently learned about the company's relocation policy from one of our white colleagues. I'd been sitting with a group of white colleagues a few weeks earlier when someone had expressed concern about her dog, which was being flown into Cape Town. Astonished that she could afford to fly her dog, I asked for more details, only to discover that the company policy was to cover all relocation costs for the trainees, including your family's flights and pets, a removal company, and a hotel for 2 weeks. I shared this information with my black colleagues, and when we realized that none of us had been informed or benefited from this policy, we agreed that 3 of us would go to management to raise the issue. I had assumed that I had missed hearing about the relocation policy because I had yet to move all my things from Alice. We spoke to Dave van Eerden, director of HR at the time, who seemed genuinely surprised by the oversight. Dave followed up with the recruitment people who should have informed us about such things, asking why the policy had not been shared. Although we received apologies and reimbursements for the costs of our relocations, we never did get a reason for what happened. In a not dissimilar incident, there was a trip scheduled for the buyers group to visit a fabric supplier in East London. Everything in the trainee program was scheduled in advance, and so a week or so before the trip, having received no updates from HR, I went to ask for the details. The woman I spoke to in HR, the same recruitment person who had failed to inform the black trainees about the relocation policy, told me the trip was cancelled. The following week, one of my white trainee friends asked why I hadn't gone to the trip. I was told that the trip was no longer happening, I said. No, we were all there. I don't understand. You are part of our group. You should have been there, she said. I went back to HR, where the same recruitment woman claimed that she had been told the department budget could only accommodate so many trainees, which was why I had been cut. I then went to my divisional manager, who denied the existence of any budget issue, adding that HR had never contacted him. These episodes illustrated the fact that while the company was saying its vision and strategy and intent was to transform and embrace and support diversity, from a practical implementation and execution perspective, certain individuals were still operating according to their own rules. There were numerous lessons that came out of this. First, it was clear that it was up to us to maintain a watchful eye and continually challenge every such instance that arose. In other words, if we found something that had fallen through the cracks and chased it down only to receive answers or responses that were unacceptable, we would need to start questioning the company's commitment to diversity and, more importantly, its values at the leadership level. Time and again, I have seen how it is the leaders who will set the tone for the company by driving the culture and living the values that influence and shape the thinking and process in an organization. Fortunately, when we raised these issues, Woolworths leadership acted swiftly to correct the situation, proving its commitment to its stated values. The second lesson was around how you respond to such incidents. Instead of allowing myself to waste energy in outrage, I channeled it into gathering the facts, talking to other black colleagues and trainees to find out if what had happened was an isolated incident or part of a pattern. Through these discussions, it became clear that while the exclusion of black employees was a deliberate move on the part of certain people, it was also evident that our leaders and those at the higher levels of management were unaware that this was happening. Thus, it was our responsibility to inform our managers when these sorts of things happened, because leaders cannot change things they do not know about. The point is, you cannot throw your toys out of the cart if the person making decisions is genuinely unaware of the situation. And the only way to create that awareness is by confronting such situations. Instead of focusing on our anger, we worked on fixing the problem. My constant refrain was, seeing that we are your pilot group, here are some challenges that we keep facing, and we're not sure whether it's your policy or not. The final lesson from these incidents was around the same way companies deal with individuals who resist change or reject company values. Proving that she was not aligned with the company's values, that woman in recruitment had made a career-limiting move. She went no further in the organization. Often people like this will not necessarily be dismissed, but their career will stall when leadership realizes they are not with the program and have not bought into the value system or vision that leadership is trying to instill. When these kinds of incidents occur, people frequently complain that nothing has happened to the person. I've heard this at every organization I've worked. But how do they know nothing has happened? Typically, you will not see a person asked to leave unless they were blatantly discriminating. Subtle discrimination, that is, people interpreting the rules in the way that suits them and their agendas, is difficult to pick up and even harder to fire someone for. So, although a person may not leave, I know that they will go no further in that company.
There was another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. The book is available online and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. The book is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. Technical production, Wiseman Manngele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuru.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Well, it's just gone 12 o'clock. It's Wednesday, the 15th of October, 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM, leading the conversation. I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
I should be inquisitive to say, but then why was this one when there were other people who had maybe scored, even though they scored higher?
Scoper's inquiry into the road accident fund continues to intensify as Parliament digs deeper into allegations of corruption and...
This has got nothing to do with the 121 dockets and the disbandment of the political killing task team. This, according to me, it's about the succession battle.
And we'll unpack suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection, Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya's testimony before the ad hoc committee. Coming up in sport, guess is back.
There are other stories besides Bafana. I'll give you those, but Bafana.
John Gericke, I haven't seen him in more than a month. Imagine how happy I am to have him back. Okay, he'll have that sports news for us later on. In the meantime, please share your views with us. 41391, that's our SMS line number. You'll be charged R1.50 per SMS. You can also get in touch via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082 692 3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Hump Day edition of Updated Noon. First, though, is the latest news with Ondelambana.